There are many shots in golf that can ruin your round, and I'm gonna talk about 6 of them that people have said are very anxiety inducing and that I hate. And I'm talking a little bit about how I generally play them and how to get better at them. The first one that can ruin your round is the tee shot. Tee shot is gonna set up how the rest of this hole is gonna go and potentially how the rest of the round is gonna go. So if I hit it out of bounds, well, now I'm going to be automatically a +1. One of the things that have been helping me a lot with my tee shots, why I've been hitting it very confidently lately, is 2 things. And I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go on. One, where is my feet pointing? What is it parallel to? And then where are my knuckles at impact? There we go. I sacrificed a golf ball to make that first point, but knowing where your knuckles are facing and your feet are parallel to is going to dictate the shape of your ball flight and where it's going. So most people leave the knuckles facing to the right, and that's why they slice it. And a lot of people overcompensate by trying to point more left, but you need to point your knuckles right to get it back to the fairway. So you're gonna leave your knuckles way too open, and then it's gonna slice. So even on shots like these, I'm focusing on where's my knuckle position at impact. And my knuckle position is just going to be parallel to the club face. But it's easier to feel my knuckle than it is to feel the club face. So, with the little draw on it, right, I'm facing, that's why I came out with a little left, because my knuckles were a little left at impact. So by making sure, or the back of your hand, should always be facing the target. That's a good determining factor of where you should be aiming. Is always at the target. Wherever you want the ball to land is where your knuckles should be facing at impact. Now, it's not obviously easy to control that, but that's why we practice. Your feet are only going to dictate where the ball is starting. So I'm gonna play a fade and a draw into this hole, and my impact position is going to be facing the same spot both times. But my feet are going to be facing 2 different directions. So let's start off with the draw. So a slight little draw up in there, and you can see it started out to the right, came back to the left. And now I'm gonna play a fade, and I'm gonna be facing a little bit to the left, but my knuckles are still going to backhand the ball, pointing to where I want the ball to go. And you play a little fade. And you're gonna see they're landing in basically the same spot. Faded a little too much, but basically in the same area, same spot, because my knuckles were facing that same spot where I wanted it to land. I just played with somebody. I played with 2 people. One person that was a chronic slicer, and the other was a chronic hooker, but not the profession. And the way that they lined up would be way to the right or way to the left. And the difficult part with that is that same way that you were lining up to combat the hook and the slice is the reason why you were hooking and slicing. So let me explain. Ooh, still running. Still, good chip shot. If I am a chronic slicer of the ball and I'm encountering a hole like this where out of bounds is to the left and to the right, the course is a dog leg left. So to the right is the opposite way of the hole. I'm kind of shit out of luck, right? So if I'm aiming this way and I'm trying to play the slice because I'm expecting the slice to come out, the ball is most likely to go out of bounds. And the reason why people do that is because if I'm aiming this way, expecting the slice to come up, in my mind, I want to hit the fairway, so my hand is going to open up the club face, and with that's going to cause the slice. Because in my mind, the instruction manual is hit the fairway. But if I'm aiming all the way to the trees to the left, well then I'm going to have to slice the ball to get to the fairway. So I'm reinforcing that shot. Same thing with hooking the ball. So it's not to say that you can easily hit the ball dead straight every single time, but by at least minimizing how parallel your feet are to the target, you can at least get the ball a little bit more of a better start line, and your knuckles are going to know I don't need to bend that much to be able to get the ball where I need it to go. That's perfect. So to finally wrap up tee shots, all you want to do, and you can bring this into every single shot in your, arsenal, align your feet to where you want the ball to start, your start line, and then feel like you are backhanding through the target. So if my target is a flag, I'm going to want to feel like the back of my knuckles are going to the flag at impact. Now let's go put ourselves into position number 2 that I think a lot of people end up hating. Let's go move this ball a little bit. So position number 2 that I ask people that they were most anxious about is chipping over a bunker. Now, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please do so you can answer some of the thought-provoking questions that I generally ask people. And that's pretty much a good enough reason, I think. I don't know, it makes me smile. So, position number 2 is chipping over a bunker. Now, chipping over a bunker is essentially like every other chip, but you put a hazard in the way. It could be bunker, it could be water, it could be a little creek, doesn't really matter. It gets into people's head. And depending on the lie, if I'm in the fairway or if I'm in the rough, well, that's going to make it potentially harder. Because if I'm in the fairway, at least I can add a little bit more checkup to the ball afterwards. If I'm in the rough, it can be a little bit harder to get a little bit more checkup, and I need to know I have enough speed and confidence to hit it over the bunker. So let's talk a little bit more about that. There's nothing really special about hitting it over the bunker, but it's just about confidence that I can move the ball, move my club through impact. A lot of people get a little bit in their head about chunking the ball or topping it into it. But when you're in positions where you are afraid of or chunking or topping the ball, the key thing that I like to think about is tempo. Smooth tempo is a great way for me to reestablish good contact with the ball. It can't guarantee it, but nothing is guaranteed in golf. And making sure to aim anywhere where the ball is going to be safe on the green is going to be a key element into getting over the bunker. You don't need to go over the bunker if you don't have to, but if you have to, let's take this tee shot, for example, of how to get over a bunker. So let's imagine that there is water, I don't know, in front of this tee shot for 50 yards. Would it change anything that I would need to do compared to if there was no water there or if there was water there? No, it's the same exact thing. The only thought of it is the fear of hitting it into that. But I also don't want to top it into the rough right there anyway. So I'm not going to be thinking about hitting it into the water or chipping it into a bunker. But the idea of tempo for better contact still would result in the same thing if there was water here or if I'm chipping from here to there over some water. I'm going to focus on tempo rather than, pounding the ball, because I need to focus on making sure I'm getting good contact. But sometimes a lot of people will get into their head, if I'm chipping over a bunker or if I'm hitting over some water, of don't hit it into the water, don't hit it into the bunker. But all we want to think about is good contact, and that will do the rest of the work for me. So now all I'm thinking about is good contact and let it do the work for me. If irony could just take a break for a second. Now this third shot that most people hate, I think is probably one of the most hated shots in golf. Let's talk about short-sided chips. Now if you're on this side, short-sided chips are very difficult because you need to get the ball to stop very quickly. Let me move more in frame. You need to get the ball to stop very quickly. And depending on the lie, if you're in the rough, if you're far back, if you're close up, it can really dictate a lot of different things around how you're gonna hit the shot. Golf Sidekick teaches a good way of just toe down jipping and just hit it with the toe. And it's a really good way because it kills the speed of the ball. I hit it off the line, but you can see the line distance was very good. The accuracy was not. And that depends on the lie that you're gonna have, and that's what makes it really tricky. Because if you're a little bit further back, and if you're in some thick rough or you're in some dirt, or if you need to hit over a bunker, you need to land it very quickly. However, you don't actually need to do that unless you are trying to shoot even par. Most of the time, it's just how do I get it on the green? And you can, depending on your lie, you can hit it a few different ways. You can hit a little floppy. Ooh, go in. You can hit a little floppy, you can hit toe down, you can do a lot of different things. The easiest way to avoid short side chipping is to not hit it to the short side, right? So if I'm looking at this hole, the short side is to the right. So I want to aim to the left of the green, to the left of the hole, miss left. That is what's going through my mind. If I know I hate short-sided chips, or if it's running downhill near the right, I don't want to actually go for the pin, which frees me up for a great second shot. And I'm going to talk about this in the future, but it's the way that Scottie Scheffler actually plays golf, and that's why he's so good. He never misses short side. Let's present a scenario. Let's say the pin, the short side here, is 130 yards. The middle of the green is 145, and the back of the green is 160. Well, I would want to aim not for the flag. I don't want to choose my 130 club, because if I hit it, well, then I'm on the short side. If I hit it perfectly, yeah, maybe it could go near the hole. But instead, I could choose my 145 to 160 club and just get it on the green and have much more comfortability. If I don't hit the ball well, if I don't hit it perfectly, that's fine. If I hit it perfectly, it's gonna go somewhere on the green, and that's fine. But it eliminates the short side miss, which we all hate. Because the short side is so complicated, it's very hard to say this is what you should do, because it depends on if you're hitting off the fairway, if you're hitting out of the rough, etc., etc. So the easiest thing to do is to aim not for the short side. And that's very easy to do. Unless the hole is super tiny. Ooh, what a read. Unless the hole is super tiny, it is easy to do, but you just need to be aware that I don't need to go for the pin every single time. Let's take this shot for example. It is 150 yards to the front, 160 to the middle, 180 to the back, right? The pin is in the back. So instead of choosing my 7-iron, which is my 180 club, well, I could choose anywhere in between my 150 club and my 160, well, maybe 165, right? So between a 9 and an 8 for me, right? These numbers don't need to match yours, but it is between a 9 and an 8. Now, if I'm really good, right, maybe I can go pin hunting, or if there's no miss in the back, it's not that bad. But over here, there's hills to the back, so it's a pretty bad miss if you have to chip up a hill on the short side. So instead, I could choose my 8-iron and aim right to the middle, right, of the green, and that eliminates missing to the bunker in the front, and then it eliminates going long. Because if I don't hit it well, then I miss to the front. If I do hit it well, then it goes to the middle. But if I choose my 170 club and I hit it well, and it doesn't stop, it's going over the green. If I don't hit it well, then it's probably going to maybe in the front of the green or in the middle. What the big miss is, don't miss short side, because that is going to cause a blow up hole for me rather than any other shot. So the distance was good, the accuracy was not good, but it's not short side. And that's why you miss on the not short side. 9 times out of 10, hitting a shot from here is going to be easier than hitting a shot short side over the hill. Even though I have to chip over the hill, well, we already spoke about that. There's nothing that you're going to be doing differently. But if I had to chip short side over a bunker and had to get it up very quickly and make it stop very quickly, a lot of people don't have that shot in their bag. Instead, I have a lot of room to let the ball run out. I have a little bit of room that I can get a little bit more speed and a little bit more spin on the shot. And there we go. So the easiest way to not miss short side, it didn't bounce down the hill. I mean, the easiest way to not hit a short-sided chip is to not miss short side. Oh, they both landed in the same spot, didn't go down the hill. But still, you get the point. Now, a lot of people may think I don't have the accuracy and the distance control to dictate where I'm gonna miss. And that's not true. The difference between your clubs is probably gonna be around, I don't know, a 5 to 10 yard difference if you actually learn your distances. So learning your distances is going to help you learn how to miss. Instead of choosing an 8-iron, well, do I just choose a 7? Or do I choose a 9? You don't wanna go for 160 if the flag is 160 and the miss is really bad, right? So it's eliminating the double bogeys and the huge blow-up holes. And that's why these shots are super tricky. So now putting yourself into positions is kind of the key. Because if you end up with a short-sided chip and the next shot that we're gonna talk about, well, then you're going to potentially have a really bad blow-up hole. That was so high. Now, I'm not gonna talk about fairway bunkers because it's not a shot that most people get into. The other shots especially with the ones with a wedge or a putter in your hand, is what you're most likely going to fall into, and those are most likely going to cause blow-up holes, very often, very quickly. And the reason why I'm talking about these shots, maybe 4 shots now because the pace of play is kind of slow today, which is fine. It's a nice day out, is because, well, most people are going to score better by eliminating the blow-up holes. And most average golfers are going to have blow-up holes, almost every single other hole. As you saw in my last break 80, it was one of those rounds. So, learning how to miss better and play shots and aim better that eliminate the blow-up holes is going to be key. Now, short-sided chipping is such a complicated thing. That's why I didn't really go into it, because it really depends on your lie. It depends on the slope of the green, which we're going to talk about next. And it depends on if you're hitting out of a bunker, if you're hitting over a bunker, etc., etc. But essentially, to wrap up short-sided chips, well, you don't want to leave yourself into a position where if you can eliminate hitting it to the short side, that's key number 1. If you do end up short side and you're right off the green, try hitting it off the toe. You can watch, Golf Sidekick talk about that a lot because it deadens the speed of the ball a lot more. So you leave yourself in a good position. If you are chipping over something, you're probably going to need a little bit more loft on those shots because you need to get it up and land it quickly. However, if you're not comfortable with hitting a little bit more of a lofted shot, like a flop shot or like a 60-degree shot, then your job is to just get it anywhere on the green, because getting it anywhere on the green is almost guaranteed to eliminate the blow up. Such a good strike. Not the direction that we wanted. The next shot that can cause a lot of blow up is downhill putts. So, along with the missing, if I have to miss a shot, or if I know it's really sloping downhill, I'm gonna wanna aim for the front, an uphill shot, rather than a downhill shot. Now that gets a little tough if you need to finesse a wedge. Most of the time you just wanna get it on the green, so we'll figure that out once we get on the green. The philosophy still stays the same with where you were thinking about hitting the ball, right? So let's take this hole for example. The pin is in the front, it's downhill, so if I miss short side, well, I have a short side shot. If I go long and I miss the short side, well, then I have a downhill putt. So which one do I hate more? A short-sided chip or a downhill putt? Which one is more likely to cause me, personally, a blow-up hole? I know for me, a downhill putt is probably going to leave me in a much worse spot. So as long as I can miss in the front of the green, and as I can aim for the front of the green, well, then I'm gonna do that. If there is water there in the front, well, then obviously I would just go long and accept the downhill putt. Or you can just go in the hole. In a situation like this is fine, right? If we're looking at missing short-sided over here, where on a hole like this, you could just putt it, even though I hate these kind of putts, but you could just putt it, which is fine. So missing short-sided on like this is essentially you're playing the 2-putt. So this would not be a bad miss. And we got another putt. However, if I had to chip it over like a bunker or a hill or something, well, then that would be tough because I would need to get it to stop before the hole and before I have a long downhill putt. Because you can easily, I'm going to demonstrate hitting it poorly, you can easily let it run if you hit it a little too long. Now I'm gonna leave myself with that was fine. But I'm gonna leave myself with a tough downhill chip or putt. And downhill putts are tough, so let's talk about that. Downhill putting, even pros hate it. You eliminate a lot of break, but it also speeds up the process a lot more. And potentially you add a lot of break depending on if you're on the side of the pin or not. But most of the time, uphill putting is gonna result in more break versus a downhill putt. But the speed and target for which you have to aim on a downhill putt can really mess you up and leave you into a bad shot. So for an uphill putt, I know I can pretty much go at the pin. And I made it, right? However, let's say I'm in a downhill putt. If I aim at the pin, the ball is running off the green, right? So with a downhill putt, especially on fast greens, I'm gonna have to aim to stop the ball. In my mind, I'm hitting a putt to maybe like right here. that is my new target position, but that is where you need to figure out pace control on your greens that you're putting at. These greens are very quick, so I know if I hit it too hard, it's gonna run off the green. So distance control is very hard on a downhill putt, and the break is hard to understand because going downhill, well, it adds more speed, so it eliminates a lot more break. However, it can also play a lot more break because if I need to stop it on, say, a big bank, well, then I'm gonna have to play a lot of break because I need to stop the ball very early, otherwise it's going to run off the green. Let's take 2 putts, for example. So that putt, I hit it a little bit past my target, and that's why I ran a little bit past over there. Ignore the accuracy. I'm just showing the distance control. On a putt like this, if it was sloping a little bit more, if their pin was a little bit more slope, I may even have to aim to try to hit a shot over here and let it break. You've seen some of the putts on TV where the aiming is all over there and they're just letting it trickle in. A side hill, downhill putt is super tricky and can easily lead to a 3-putt or a 4-putt. And that's why people hate it. So I'm gonna have to aim, I don't know, maybe over here. There's not too much, slope here, but I'm gonna have to probably aim like up here and hopefully let it trickle down into that. But that comes with experience, practice, which most people do not do. And I hit it a little too hard. The distance control was pretty good. However, if it was a much bigger slope, which some greens do have, which some greens do not have, well, you're gonna be in for a bad time. And I hate downhill putts. They have been my nemesis lately, so I try to avoid them as much as possible. So I am always aiming for an uphill putt if I have the chance to aim. So as opposed to aiming for, say, 130 in the middle, 120 in the front, 140 in the back, I'm not choosing my 130 to 140 club, I choose my 120 to 130. So I ideally land it where I'm gonna have an uphill putt as opposed to landing on the 130 to 140 and I have a downhill putt, unless there's hazards. And that's why golf is so tricky, because you need to play each situation pretty differently, but you also need to know, all right, these are my worst blow-up shots, and I want to eliminate those out of my game today. So how do I not put myself into a position where I'm going to have a blow-up hole? Except for the tee shot. You're going to hit every single tee shot, but we spoke about that already. Anyway, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that explained something to you. Hopefully you're still watching, and we'll speak next time.